Good evening, family. Welcome, everybody. So glad to see you in the classroom tonight. We are continuing. Hey, everybody, come on in. Glad to see you. We're continuing our exploration of this topic, Lesson 55. This is part two of the big lie. Part two of the big lie. And I think we're going to be doing some new things tonight. So I hope you are just patient with us if they don't go exactly right. But I think you'll be happy with the change. At least I hope you will. So we want to go on and pray and get started. And hopefully more of our family will have come in by the time that's over. Loving God, thank you for the gift of your word. Thank you that though we seek after you like deer panting after the water brooks, you always slake our thirst with manna and living water. So give us from on high those things we stand in need of this week to live our lives more faithfully as disciples. In Jesus' name, amen. Tonight we are continuing this conversation about the big lie, and it's very important, especially in this era, in this age that we're living in America, but not only in America. We're seeing it all over the world, that people have abandoned truth and have decided that whatever truth there may be, they have the right to create another truth. And this carries over, not simply in the realm of politics, but this carries over in the realm of everyday life in so many spheres of our lives. And so the big idea that we've been trying to pursue, going to do a little review as we pick up where we left off. And so by the end of all of this, hopefully you're going to get some principles that will help you to use truth, to leverage truth in your own lives and your ministries, and that will help you to identify. See, because that's the problem. Truth is being hidden and obscured. Will help you identify and successfully respond to untruth. So, last week we discovered that there are some reasons that folk lie, and some of you said because they're insecure. Some said they want personal advantage, all kinds of things. And we discovered that everybody in the classroom, for the most part, has been lied on. And we began exploring the text for last week and this week, Acts chapter 17, verses 1 through 9, where we find Paul and Silas traveling and coming to Thessalonica, going into the synagogue. And Paul went there and Silas to teach. And for 3 Sabbaths, that is 3 weeks, they taught in the synagogue and proving to people that Jesus is the Messiah who would rise from death. But it stirred up some animus, some jealousy. The text says among the Jews who were gathered there in the synagogue, and they went out in the street and found loafers. One version says they found some folk who were up to no good, as my grandson Alex would say, and they conscripted them into a mob and went to Jason's house to take it over, to storm Jason's house where they thought Paul was. But when they didn't find him, well, of course, they arrested Jason and some other believers. And not only that, but they spouted some lies. They told some lies. Here were these Jews who were concerned about Caesar worship, lying about Paul and Silas, spreading word against, pretending that they were in favor of emperor worship, and Paul and Silas were breaking Roman law, as if they were concerned about Roman law. That's what liars will do. The big lie finds strange bedfellows. if you will. And so they repeatedly threw people into an uproar. And that's the essence of the text, where we find truth itself challenged. And if you look at the text, the first several verses deal with the truth. That is what Paul and Silas were teaching, verses 1 through 4. And then verses 5 through 9 really expose the big lie. And so we took a look at several concepts last week. We began with some definitions that are found in verses 2 and 3. And the first definition was internal sense propositions. And these are things that people say about their own internal senses about things that happen in life, things that folks say on their own about their own states of being. For example, I must believe that the proposition is true for it to be an internal sense proposition. The proposition must actually be true. That's number 2. And thirdly, I've got to have conclusive evidence that it is true. And of course, evidence is information that leads to facts. Proof is, in fact, the facts. And so examples of that are, I believe in God, I'm tired, I love my wife. Nobody can prove any of those things except you. And so that's why these are internal sense propositions. They're only true if you're honest when you say them. That's the first thing. That's one thing we need to get under our belts to understand the truth. The next definition is an external sense proposition. And these are things folks say about the state of situations that we can see through evidence, right? So in the external world, automobiles move by burning fuel. Turtles can't climb to the top of a fence post. This is a laptop computer that I'm typing on. These are all observable facts. And so we examined external sense propositions because Paul and Silas used both of these to make their case. And that's the reason the truth was able to stand in the face of a lie. They used internal sense propositions, truthfully speaking about the things they knew, and they used external sense propositions, observably showing through the scriptures and evidence that the things they were saying are in fact true, proving from the scriptures, verse 3a says. They were proving from the scriptures that the Messiah had to suffer. And so the final thing that in the definitions we examined is that a disciple whose life has no visible proof of the messiahship of Christ is guilty of making Christ a lie, a deliberate untruth to unbelievers. And so if there's no proof in your life, if there's no evidence in your life, that's why I asked you last week, what is the proof in your life that Christ is the Messiah? And many of you were able to, right off the bat, just come up with it. Why? Because this is real. It is verifiable proof that Christ is the Messiah. So you need to know that this is not just, as I said at the beginning of this session tonight, it's not just about politics. The big lie, y'all, can happen anywhere. That's a principle. And then there are lots of other principles right underneath that. The big lie can happen in marriages. It can happen in partnerships. It can happen in ministries, businesses, governments. Second principle, the big lie can be perpetrated by individuals, organizations, cliques, or even by loose, informal confederations of people. We're finding this out now after the January 6th siege on the U.S. Capitol. These folks who did not really know each other, but maybe some of them were in the same groups, got in cahoots and began talking back and forth about what they were going to do on January 6th. And I believe before it's all said and done, they're going to find out that some Congress people and senators may have been involved. That's my view. So the big lie, number 3, the next principle is any misrepresentation of reality which leverages other people and systems of power to serve a selfish interest and which existentially endangers others. That's a definition. You can put that on an index card or a t-shirt and let folk know what's happening in the world without even talking to them. You know what? Here's a good way. We put this on a t-shirt. You know what? That's what we ought to do. We ought to put it on the back of a t-shirt. This definition right here. And then when we're in the supermarket, in line in front of somebody who believes the big lie, whatever that big lie may be, then they will see that definition and will not be able to squirm. There's no squirming room in this definition. It covers everything. The fourth principle is this: while all lying is morally questionable, the big lie always imperils life or livelihood. I mean, there are some folk who just lie because my stepfather used to say, you just lie because you're able to lie. The big lie is more than that. The big lie always puts somebody in danger. Life or livelihood, something is in danger. Here's another principle, number 5. The big lie is never simply verbal, but always is attached to negatively subversive action. Always attached to negatively subversive action. And so here we are now this week. That's the review in a little sweeping panorama. And now let's this week go on back to where we left off. I'm going to just pick up with the first couple of these principles under the heading, the big lie is observable. The big lie is observable. First principle is this: feelings are not necessarily verbalized, but are always operationalized. Let's go to the text, verse 5. But some Jews, Luke says in the writing, were jealous. So people who perpetrate the big lie are never satisfied just to feel what they feel. They must exert influence somewhere. They've got to act out or operationalize their feelings. That's verse 5a. Here's a second principle. I hope I'm not going too fast for you. People who tell the big lie are prolific recruiters. They're adept at gathering others to their cause. That's verse 5a1. The text says, and gathered worthless loafers from the streets and formed a mob. Isn't it interesting that these same Jews spent lots of time keeping others outside of their sphere, really withdrawing and avoiding unbelievers and the unclean? But here they went out in the street and recruited worthless people because they wanted to make this point on Paul and Silas. In other words, they wanted to operationalize their feelings. You still with me? So they gathered worthless loafers from the streets and formed a mob. Here's principle number 3. People who tell the big lie are rarely concerned with principles. Their sole concern is power. Let me say that again. People who tell the big lie are rarely concerned with principles. Their sole concern is power. Have you noticed that some of the people telling the big lie, for example, about our past election, used to feel like the government needs to stay out of my life? That's what they built their whole ideology on. Limited government, small government, you know, and they used to be concerned about law and order, and they would wrap police around them, you know, wrap themselves in the police forces. And these same people stood in the Capitol and watched police being killed. Where do principles go? These same people have always been concerned about policing. and law and order in that order. They were concerned about policing and law and order, but those same people are reflexively saying, we don't want any commission to study this. We don't want it. We don't want it. There's already enough study going on. They are never concerned. Never concerned. Yeah, Diane, you're right. They're never concerned about principles. Principles for people who tell the big lie are what an accountant would call fungible. They are definitely exposed and susceptible to manipulation. My principles will change according to whatever I want that will give me power. Just think back over your own life. People who told big lies in your life, you know, they are people who probably branded themselves as, you know, above reproach, but they're willing to recreate the truth. Principles don't matter, just power. They were always concerned about free and fair elections, right? Always, which is a good thing, except now they don't mind if incompetent, unqualified, biased people handle ballots. And they're always fiscally concerned about spending money. But now they're tampering with voting machines, and all of them got to be thrown out. Got to buy more, millions of dollars. You following this? People who tell the big lie, and the big lie in your workplace, the big lie in your relationship, these things, principles don't matter. So if you see somebody telling the big lie, that walk does not even match that talk. For example, you know, in a relationship, in a marriage relationship, the big lie can really be a matter of life or death. And so when you see that person, all of these kinds of people who tell the big lie, plying their trade, you ought to know they're not concerned about what's right. They're only concerned about what places them in advantage. Hopefully y'all still with me. So here's number 5, the next one. Tellers of the big lie rely on fear and intimidation. Tellers of the big lie rely on fear and intimidation. That's verse 5c. Here now, they tell this big lie, Paul and Silas, oh, we're Jews, but we're concerned about them getting in the way of worshiping Caesar. Lord have mercy. What is the world coming to? And then they leave the company of the rulers of the town, and they attack the home of an innocent man, Jason, trying to find Paul and Silas and bring them out, the rulers. We had the privilege, by the way, of standing at the crossroads of that same spot in Thessalonica. There is on one side a huge amphitheater. Some of you who went to Greece with us will remember this. There's a huge amphitheater, and and then the road. There's another road that goes off to the left, and it goes down to the sea. That sea has been filled in by silt over the thousands of years, but the sea used to be right there. And Paul was taken to that place, and he could have gone to the amphitheater and faced all these charges, but the saints secreted him away right at that moment because they were threatening Jason, but they really wanted Paul. They wanted Silas. Tellers of the big lie rely on fear and intimidation. How many people are being beaten these days? Diane says they're only concerned with power and the weakness of others. That's so true, Diane. That's so true. Or what they perceive as weakness, and sometimes it is weakness. Beating up 80-year-old Asian women on a street, beating up Jews all by themselves on a street corner, innocent, unprovoked, killing black men who are driving away from you, and then saying, "Oh, he was trying to run us over. That car was a deadly weapon." Yeah, fear, intimidation. Ku Klux Klan burning crosses was not because they were trying to prove their fiery zeal for Jesus. No, They burned crosses to frighten poor, helpless Black people. Yeah. Brother Thompson says, interesting how people change at the flip of a coin to suit themselves, right or wrong. Absolutely. Because the worst instincts of people are out when the big lie is being told. There is now in this country just used to be some shame. Bill Bennett wrote a book years ago called The Death of Shame. Shame has died 1,000 deaths since he wrote that book, because now it's all out in the street. It's all naked aggression and fear and intimidation. And that's what all these police killings are about. That's why Black folk are in the streets in Wilmington and in Milwaukee and all over the country, because people are tired of being afraid. But when the big lie is being told, you should know fear and intimidation is the weapon of choice. They're going to create laws that make you afraid to give somebody a bottle of water if they're standing in line voting. I'm going to jail over that one, y'all. You just need to know that. Yeah. Fear and intimidation. That's the weapon. They attacked Jason's house and to flex on him and the believers. Y'all still with me? Okay. Number 6, tellers of the big lie rely on scapegoating and projection. It's fuel to keep the big lie going when schemes and plots are slow to produce the desired results. Now, I give you a definition of scapegoating. There is a positive definition of it in the Old Testament, but scapegoating, as it's used in the culture nowadays, and since early days in the 20th century, is singling out a person or sometimes a group for undeserved blame, particularly where a severe consequence is possible. That's scapegoating, putting the blame on somebody else when you think they may be punished or harmed, blaming them for something they did not do. Projection is strategically assigning your own behavior or your own traits to somebody else, right? So somebody who lies every day is always quick to accuse you of lying. Somebody who steals is usually the first one. Judas was this way. Scapegoating. Yeah. Their truth is so far removed from reality, Beth says, they don't even see themselves as culpable. Yeah, that's true. Although I would like to reshape your categories a little bit, B, before I go to Sister D, and that is, they see themselves as culpable. This is not unconscious behavior. They see themselves as culpable. That's why they're trying to blame somebody else, because mostly they're cowards. They don't want to face the reality of their own actions, and they certainly don't want to face the truth, which is at odds with what they're doing. And Sister D says, liars will often play the victim. That's so true. Yeah, liars will often play the victim. Yeah, deflection. The deflection. And in psychology, projection is the word. Deflecting could mean just an artful dodge, but projection really means putting your own feelings on another person. Yeah. So tellers of the big lie are classic scapegoaters. They always, have you noticed this? Tellers of the big lie always have to have somebody to be a straw man, a straw woman, a boogeyman. They've got to have an enemy at all times. If they don't have one, they'll drum one up, because scapegoating and projection are the ways in which they leverage the people who follow them, right? Scapegoating and projection are their weapons. Now listen at verse 6. But when they did not find them, they dragged Jason and some other believers before the city authorities in that amphitheater that we were talking about, and shouted, "These men have caused trouble everywhere. Now they have come to our city." Caused trouble everywhere. A couple of versions of this 6th verse say, "These men have turned the world upside down." That's really peculiar, because one of the things that a teller of the big lie does is create what a lady named Gwen Shamblin, an author named Gwen Shamblin, calls opposite world. Tellers of the big lie are famous for opposite world. So they're saying they've turned the world upside down, but look who's stirring up the uproar everywhere, stirring up the uproar in the synagogue, stirring up the uproar at Jason's crib, stirring up the uproar at the amphitheater in front of the authorities. You see what I'm saying? They're the ones stirring up the uproar, but now they're accusing through projection and scapegoating. They're accusing Paul and Silas of doing just that very thing. Yeah, anything to take the heat. That's right, Sister Gwen. Anything to take the heat off themselves. Yeah, and of course you can. I'm just, I'm looking for. I'm hoping that some of you are paging back through the days of your own lives and seeing some run-ins that you may have had with people, and you thought it was just because they had a personality that was oil and water with you, y'all couldn't set horses. But a lot of times it was because they were tellers of the big lie and never got labeled or identified as such. And by the same token, I'm praying that some disciples will avoid ever being that. Tellers of the big lie, TBL. Yeah, we need to create another t-shirt. Put a big circle, red circle with a red line across it, like stop, don't, no. Yeah, and underneath in the circle should be the words, there should be the letters TBL, and underneath the circle, the big lie. Are y'all taking this? I mean, I hope you're getting these. I hope you're getting these, because listen. Good. Yeah, you got some scenes from your past, Beth. You're not the only one. That's what I'm hoping we will recognize tonight, so that when this comes again, and it will come again. Yeah, you've had some too, Amy. Yeah, it will come again. And when it does, you can recognize it and take evasive action or take prophetic action. What do I mean by prophetic action? A prophet is a truth teller. A prophet is a foreteller, but a prophet is also a forth teller. When you take prophetic action, you deal with the big lie in whatever way. I'm glad, Sister Cheryl. When you deal with the big lie, when you deal with being a prophetic person, you don't have to be Elijah or Moses, by the way, to be a prophet. You can be a prophetic person just because you speak truth. So it is important as citizens that we speak truth to power. It's tiresome and worrisome sometimes because it involves a lot of work. I mean, the big lie doesn't just lay down and say, my bad. No, but hopefully you can recognize this stuff and recall in your own life where it happened and learn from that based on these principles right out of this text. So let's move on here to the final principle where for tellers of the big lie, the rule of law is situational. We're not the last one. This is the last one. The rule of law is situational. Remember I told you they're never concerned about principles. They're only concerned about power. Sister Diane says her past is flying before her now. Good. Wonderful, Diane. Wonderful. I'm hoping that's happening all around the classroom, that people are seeing some of these things now in high relief that really puzzled you maybe back in the day. For tellers of the big lie, the rule of law is situational. Listen to verse 7. Verse 7 says this, and Jason has kept them. This is part of the accusation they make in front of the leaders of the town. And Jason has kept them in his house. They're all breaking the laws of the emperor, saying that there is another king whose name is Jesus. They already knew there was another king. The king, God was their king. Remember, he was mad at Israel because they wanted Saul for a king. The Lord was already saying, I'm already your king. Listen, grab a lifeline, buy a vow, figure it out. But here now, for all these centuries, God has been their king. And now Paul and Silas come and talk about Jesus as if he is the Messiah, the anointed one. The first mistake they made was thinking politically about the Messiah. Jesus did not come to establish his kingdom in any court of a king. Yeah, try the spirit by the spirit, Sister Nicole says. You can discern when someone is not of God and just a big liar. Yeah, I hope you can discern it. And I hope after tonight, you can discern it more easily. That's so true. That's so true. Brother Charles says his first wife was a subscriber to the big lie, untruthful, lied to him concerning heartache, and he thanks God he found Kathy. A man who finds a wife findeth a good though. You better quote the Proverbs, man. You better quote them. You quote them strong, Rocksteady. That's good. I'm glad you found Kathy too. Amen. Yeah, yeah. So for tellers of the big lie, the rule of law is situational. So I'm arguing here that Luke captures these Jews expressing concern to protect the kingship of Caesar. Check it out. Go deeper. Caesar was the one oppressing them, and they're now arguing to protect his kingship from Jesus. Really? Second thing, the law never applies to tellers of the big lie like it does to others. They'll find a loophole. They'll find a way to make themselves or project themselves as exempt from the big lie. It is amazing. Yeah, yeah, God showed the way. Isn't that something? Yeah, the law never applies. I mean, the law, as I've said earlier, is fungible. Principles are fungible. Everything is fungible as long as personal advantage and power are the result of these digressions from what they said were their own values. So let's keep going here, almost to the end here. Principle number 8. Tellers of the big lie often resort. Yeah, Brother Thompson, it does sound like today's living. Tellers of the big lie often resort to emotion and skillfully avoid reason. You better watch them. You better watch TBLs. As they will, because you saw what the Jews did. Verse 8 says, with these words, they threw the crowd and the city authorities in an uproar. They will use emotion to cloud reason. And that's one of the reasons I always tell people, and y'all can take this one, take this one as a freebie, so to speak. Never make decisions on an angry heart. Never make decisions, saints, on an angry heart, because the emotion that you have about a matter will cloud your reason. Does this mean that emotion is a bad thing? No. But emotion that is whipped up out into a frenzy of this kind, emotion that has been plied and leveraged by negative forces and negative tactics, which has been geared to hurt people or oppress people, which has had the result of disorder and chaos and cruelty and meanness. You can see these things with your lying eyes. That kind of emotion will cloud your reason, and you'll end up doing things precipitously. What does that mean? Willy-nilly, without regard for the process, for a process, just randomly. And so tellers of the big lie, liars know how to, punch you where it hurts you emotionally. Yeah, they know how to do it. Yeah, they're quick to cry. Yeah, they'll make themselves the victim. They'll hit you where it hurts. In psychology, this is called pushing buttons. They know how to push buttons so that they make you fly into the frenzy, make you emotional, and you'll be going postal and come to your senses and say, now, wait a minute. What was I hollering about? What was that all about? Tellers of the big lie. Where you see this kind of disorder and chaos, somebody in the midst of it is telling the big lie. I'll never forget. Yeah. It's like they study. They do. Oh, they do study how to be the most impactful. That's the truth. They've spent their lives many times studying the reactions of people, by small acts of cruelty, maybe when they were young, and they will, a mental health professional might identify a person like this as a sociopath. They step into a room, take a big stick, bat, or whatever, and knock stuff over and tear things up, stir it up, and a beehive is loose. And then they step outside the room and look inside with glee at what they've done. That's that's what happens with people who tell the big lie. They appreciate the chaos, and they thrive in that chaos because it makes them able to avoid the reason which would otherwise govern the situation. Y'all still with me? Okay. Hopefully. Number 9. Yeah, sociopath, Diane. Yeah. That's one of the hallmarks of a sociopath, among others. But that's one that is very recognizable, right, in polite society, recognizable in government, recognizable in marriages, in relationships, in business partnerships. If you got somebody that every time you with them, there's always some drama. What is the drama about? The drama is a handmade creation of tellers of the big lie. All right. So number 9, this is another principle. Your specific face in my, okay. Yeah. Hopefully, the pathological and delusional. Okay. There's a pastoral counselor. There's a chaplain talking right there. She knows what she's talking about. Brother McAdoo, no empathy. That's right. Oh, y'all better call the roll out in here. Y'all in the DSM. Yeah. That's exactly right. These are, and I will say, just generally speaking, these are broken people, dysfunctional people, and many times people who avoid being put back together because they are fed by the dysfunction and the chaos. Yeah. The values of tellers of the big lie will eventually be exposed. Listen to verse 9. The authorities made Jason and the others pay the required amount of money to be released and then let them go. Eventually, they are exposed. If Jason and the others had done anything, Jason would have probably died in jail, but he did not. Also, they were going to make sure to get something out of the cruelty and disorder that they created. Made Jason and those pay for something that was never done by them. They did nothing wrong. Very broken. And they need help. Yeah, they need help. That's a shout cue right there. Yeah, they will be exposed. That is a shout cue, y'all. I mean, because the old saying goes, a lie will die. Even though truth runs around the world before truth, a lie runs around the world before truth puts her shoes on. Even in spite of that, a lie will die. That's one of the things that gets exposed here in verse 9. The authorities made them pay and realized that all of that drama that had been created was going nowhere, and they had to let them go, begrudgingly, I'm sure. Here's the final principle. The moral of the story concerning tellers of the big lie is watch what they do and not what they say. Y'all got that? That needs to go on a t-shirt too. Watch what they do and not what they say. TBL in the circle with a strike across it. And underneath the circle, watch what they do, not what they say. Because if you listen to what they say, y'all know what I always say, you'll be crazier than a termite inside a wooden yo-yo. You cannot listen to what they say because they'll say one thing today and then one thing this afternoon and one thing at night. You know, lie after lie after lie, misdirection, disinformation. They don't traffic in misinformation. That's just being wrong. They're not wrong. They can never be wrong. They traffic in disinformation, intentionally breaking the truth, intentionally replacing the truth. Yeah. So watch what they do, not what they say. What they say will wear your reserve nerve out. That's true, because they're constantly inserting themselves in truthful situations to gain advantage. And can I tell y'all something? And this is, you know, another freebie here. Listen, people who tell the big lie don't really, they cannot respect your particular personal anointing. They need to claim it. That's what so much of this is about. Yeah. I believe that too, Brother Thompson. God is setting the stage. They want to claim it, because the only way they can get through with what they're doing, build themselves, which are empty, is to claim your anointing. Go back there to Sister Nicole. I missed that. Watch what they do, not what they say. Yeah, because there's a pattern on lying and dysfunctional behavior. You better know that's right. You better know that's right. Diane says, she needed me 30 years ago. Well, you know, Diane, 30 years ago, I was a tad militant. So I don't know if I'd have done you any good. But thank you. Yeah, it is critical. It's critical. So the moral of the story is, watch what they do, y'all, not what they say. You know, I'm trying. You know, I think the kingdom, I think the church, put it that way, I think the church would be a healthier place in the world. I'm talking about the capital C church, would be a healthier place overall if people understood how to handle the big lie. The big lie comes out in the abuse of children sexually. The big lie comes out in the repression of people in the church. The big lie comes out in cruelty to homosexuals. Whatever you think of how they live, cruelty comes out in that. Cruelty comes out in heterosexuals who cheat on each other, having the license to oppress anybody. God, I feel a run in here. Yeah, I mean, the big lie comes out every day in Sister Stooks, I missed that. Liars have diamonds in their backs. Wow, they look better going than coming. Wow, that's amazing. That's good. There's a lot of T-shirts coming out of this. There's a lot of T-shirts coming out of this session tonight. I thank you for that. Yeah. I mean, every sector of life would be healthier. The church would be healthier. Government would be healthier if people would just face the truth and recognize, because they recognize the big lie. I think it is a sign of the weakness of these times. Narcissus, yes, indeed. Narcissists, you better believe it. I think it's a sign of these times, y'all, that people have such a hard time even recognizing the truth. And I'm going to say something that's going to sound a little bit off base, you know, but if you think about it, it is real. We're living in an age now, and I've been railing about this for years, where in Little League, y'all follow me, everybody gets a trophy. Everybody. Everybody did not play. Everybody didn't get a home run. Everybody did not exert gargantuan effort. What is the value? I mean, this is not just that virtue signaling is useless to humanity, because we breed it into our children from an early age, and we raise our daughters and love our sons. Don't miss it. That is to say, we put the restrictions on the young ladies and we raise them strict and by the book. And the boys, we just kind of let them run around. Oh, boys will be boys. Now you lying. Yeah. This big lie. See, that is life or death. That's not just what they call them, a little white lie. Why little lies got to be white? I don't even understand that. Anyway, Malcolm X is for another session. So yeah, we raise our daughters and we love our sons. These lies are big lies because now we're living in a season where big lies, where little lies that you taught and reinforced early in life will get you killed today. So therein lies the big lie. Any questions that you have before we end? Because that's really the end of our time together. If you have questions, I'll be glad to entertain them, or comments that you'd like to get in that you maybe didn't have a chance to. And then we will break while you're thinking about that. Next week, we're going to look at Acts 17:10 through 15. It's called Detours. Has your life ever taken a turn that you didn't expect and didn't like? Detours. That's what that's called. I want us to see what really detours are all about. And I think the text next week will make it plain. Invite somebody. Tell them what's happening. Let them come. Show them how to get here. And hopefully next week we will have some detour testimonies. I sure have had some detours in my life if you haven't. But if you haven't, keep on paying rent. Yours are coming. Thank you, Sister Nicole. Yeah, we needed it. I needed it too, y'all. Amen. Thank you, Sister Cheryl. Appreciate it so much. I'm going to tell you like Jed Clampett, y'all come back now. Here, telling my age. Good night, everybody. Thank you.